Welcome back to the workshop here at Gilmour Racing, and on this episode we absolutely need to get this thing running. It's super early here, the sun's just starting to come up and peek through the workshop, and to say we've got some work to do is an absolute understatement. We've got the other side of the car to put on the drive shafts, the suspension arms, we've got to service these suspension arms, we've got the rear floor to go on, the exhaust, oil coolers, the brakes, bleed the brakes, just so much stuff to do, and we need to get it done today. We're running out of time. We've got a livery reveal in about 2.5 days, I think it is. The media's coming down to do some shots in the workshop here. So we at least need this thing to actually look like a race car. But about a week after that, we want to do some testing. We want this thing driving around faultlessly at competitive speeds. And then not long after that's our first race meeting. So it's all happening here. Sign Rider's already here. He's flat out doing the new livery bits. There's a bit of a sneak peek for you, but you're not gonna see it until it's revealed. While he's working on that, we're gonna thrash on the back of the car, get it together, and then we can hopefully get this thing fired up today, get some noise out of it, we can check the gearbox and make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to. We have just about run out of parts to fit to this car, and we are really close to firing this thing up. Last thing we did was top the fluids up, so a quick recap on that. The engine oil, the KCK 1040 engine oil, we have been using it in these cars for 10 years plus and had zero issues. We supply this to a lot of races, a lot of endurance races. It has unmatched stability, unmatched wear protection, unmatched loading. It handles the temperature really well, and we've had zero issues with it. And all the race teams we supply that product to have had zero issues with it. We've had zero lubrication related failures with that engine oil. It is by far superior. Next up, the KCK All Performance Gear Oil. We've been using it in these gearboxes forever. It was actually developed for these cars and the crash dog box. Superior protection, we have had zero lubrication related failures. The only failure we've ever had with this car ever is the failure we've just had, and it looks like a shock loading to the pinion bearing. A lot of the cars on the grid in this particular class use that gear oil because it is so good. The coolant, KCK coolant, of course, long life coolant. This thing will never, ever, ever get a coolant change in its engine's life. It's in there to stay, and it will never come out unless we have a major accident that rips a radiator off the car. Long life coolant, no electrolysis, no corrosion, no issues, awesome boiling point, and we don't have to worry about it. It's in there to stay, and it's done. KCK .6 brake fluid, last up. It'll be the only brake fluid change this thing gets for the season. We will never have to change this again. This is a genuine long life brake fluid, high boiling point, and low viscosity. Why is low viscosity so important? It lessens the reaction time from the driver hitting the pedal to all the wheels receiving the necessary brake pressure. Very critical, the drivers tend to love it. They give really great feedback on it and love the pedal feel. So of course, all KCK products, we supply so many race teams and we supply so many of these cars with this particular package of oil because it is far superior. Another component that's been changed on this maintenance cycle is the battery. The battery goes under the driver basically sits on it. He leans against the fuel tank, this ducks under the fuel tank next to the fire extinguisher system and some of the electronics. Now this battery weighs about the same as a can of Coke. It's very, very light. It's a lithium battery, but they don't last forever. And this is a critical component. Should this battery fail, this car will stop. This car doesn't have an alternator, so this is key. This runs all the electronics. It runs multiple fuel pumps. It's plus the ignition system, the injection, it's got quite a lot of work to do. So these batteries are, as robust as they are, they sit very low in the car, they get a lot of vibration. Every time this thing slaps the track, this thing's on the other side of the floor, so it gets a lot of abuse. So this now will go into the jump pack, new batteries already in the car, but this thing, very, very expensive, very light, but also it needs to be changed. You can't win races if your car's out there stopping on the side of the track because your battery's failed. All right, everybody, we've got to that point now where we need to see if this thing actually runs. We've done all the hard work, everything's in, all the fluids are full. We've double checked it and then we'll double check that again. So we should be right to go. Now, the first thing we're gonna do, pull the plug out of the airbox, but we're just gonna turn the power on, make sure the dash comes up and everything's sweet. Now, we're gonna crank it over with the ignition off because we need to pump some of that oil around. We need to build some oil pressure and get everything flowing. We need to make sure it also sounds all right and it turns over free enough. So here we go, we'll hit the start button. Well, that sounded the way it should. Also, if there's any oil that's drained from the dry sump tank into the bottom of the engine, it'll pump that out so we're not starting the engine with a crankcase full of oil. The cranks are very, very low in this. If there's any oil sitting in the sump, the crank will hit it and it generally does a fair bit of damage. We now turn the ignition on. Dash has come up. So fingers crossed, if I hit this button, this thing should fire up. It's already been run in. These come with a lot of dyno time on them to make sure they're right. It's a very specific procedure to run these things in. And it's not something we're going to attempt. We'd rather the people that build the engine run the thing in, and then we get it and it's right. It doesn't leak oil and everything's the way it's supposed to. But let's hit this button and see what happens. Pretty loud, but it sounds exactly the way it's supposed to. Heap of condensation on the intake trumpets, which is cool. It means it's breathing really well. But it's super humid here today. No puddles on the floor. I bled the radiators while it was running, just to be sure. These are quite tricky to bleed. Run it up to about 60 degrees C, which is normal for a warm-up. Gearbox sounds beautiful, engine sounds beautiful, everything looks good on the dash. We've got about 5 bar of oil pressure, which is exactly what we'd expect. We can dress this thing, get the panels on it, get it on the ground, and then livery reveal, and then straight to the track for a test. And this is the livery for 2024. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment in the comment section below. But this is the livery for Kyle Evans to drive this car this year in the Australian Formula Open Series. We get asked a lot, why a new livery every year? And Gilmour Racing has had a new livery absolutely every year. And other than being all new and exciting and looking really fresh for the start of the season, the driver then owns that livery. And should a photo pop up of any of the years that Gilmour Racing has raced, you can easily identify what year that was and what driver was in the car just by the changes on the livery. You don't have to go looking for drivers' names on the car or what sort of helmet they've got. This will be very distinctive. This will always be the Kyle Evans livery, and that's exactly how it'll stay for the remainder of the year. That is done. Finished, we're ready for our test day. I'm gonna roll this thing into the truck and I'm gonna go get some sleep and catch up on my beauty sleep. I'm falling behind a little bit. It's been a big prep. Hopefully the test day goes well, then we've got 2 days to turn it around, get in the truck and head to the first race meeting. Thanks for watching, stay tuned. Preparations will be up next and then straight into Sandown. The race meeting is on. We're really looking forward to it and we can't wait to get back on the track. Thanks for watching, see you on the next video.